Hi friends and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, hello. My name's George Agambar and I'm a UK music producer. In today's video we're going to build upon a video that I did a little while ago now about vocal EQ. And today we're going to be having a look at more problem characteristics that you can find in vocals and whereabouts to find them when EQing them. So if you want to learn a little bit more about this, make sure you stay tuned and hit the subscribe button and notification bell for new videos every Wednesday. And things will never be the same when I hear your name since you kissed me in the rain. So I was having a look back through my channel and all the videos that I've made since I began, and I noticed that my most popular video was the one I made on vocal EQs and problem areas that you find in vocalists. So I thought that I'd film a follow-up video to that and have a look at 5 more problem areas that we tend to find. We'll have a look at whereabouts we tend to find these sounds. We'll compare the frequencies between a normally sung vocal and an effective vocal, and then we'll have a look at EQing the effective vocal to try and make it sound a bit more like the normal one. The 5 areas that we're going to be having a look at today will be power or bass, smoothness, honkiness, harshness, and getting an open sound in your vocal. A powerful sounding vocal is something that all singers tend to want and look for when recording in the studio. And there are lots of different production techniques that we can use to achieve this powerful sound. I mean, we can use compression, saturation, we can record doubles of the vocals to do this as well. But we can also sing in a more bassy way and EQ our vocals to sound more bassy or more powerful. And the frequency area that we're going to be looking at for this sound is between 200 and 600 Hz. Okay, so to start off with, I'm just going to sing with my normal singing voice so that we have a normal vocal tone to compare the altered vocal tones to. So this is kind of our reference track. La 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 la. To get this bassy tone, I need to make sure that my pharynx is quite low down so that I create a lot of space. I'm also going to be having a nice open mouth shape, again to help with resonance, and this should help me get the bass frequencies that I'm looking for. La 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 la. Now let's have a look at this altered vocal in some more detail. Here we have 2 EQ graphs which I made using the Match EQ plugin in Logic. On the top we have the vocal that was sung normally, and on the bottom the vocal with the altered tone. We can see that the bassier vocal certainly has increased frequencies around 250 to 300 Hz, and again around 400 to 500 Hz, which seems about right. So now let's fix this vocal. We're going to try and fix this vocal using the EQ. So here I've taken out a little dip at around 250 to 300 and another at 400 to 500 to try and tone down how bassy the vocal sounded. Here is the before and after. La 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 la. La 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 la. As you can tell, this has made the vocals sound slightly lighter and less bassy. By a smooth sounding vocal, I'm going for that rich, full, creamy sort of tone. It's kind of hard to explain it in words, but it's the kind of vocal that you'd expect to hear in jazz music or on a ballad. And the area that we're going to be having a look at for this tone is between 1 and 2 kHz. To get this kind of vocal, I am going to be using a lot of the same techniques that I used to get a bassier sound that we've just seen. However, I am going to hold it back a little bit and try and mix in my normal vocal tone a bit more as well. So we still want quite a low pharynx and a lot of open space to get that resonance. I'm also going to make sure that I take a nice deep breath before singing in plenty of time so that the sound sounds nice and smooth and supported. La 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 la. Now let's have a look at this altered vocal tone. Here's the 2 vocals. Again, the normally sung take is at the top and the altered tone at the bottom. You can see that to get the smooth tone, around the 1 to 2 kHz range has increased a lot, especially the 1.5 kHz area, which again is what we expected. But, as I mentioned, we can see that the bass frequencies have also increased ever so slightly due to using a similar singing technique as before. And this has also helped us get that smoother sounding tone. To make the normally sung vocals sound a bit smoother, I've used some additive EQ. I've boosted around 1 to 2 kHz. I just need to make sure that I'm very careful around here, as this can be where the nasal qualities in a vocal lie, as covered by my first EQ video. I've also boosted around 300 to 500 Hz a tiny bit to increase the bassiness in the vocal. Here's the before and after. La 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 la. I think that this definitely makes the vocals sound a lot smoother and a lot more full. I've normally found that whenever I hear a singer with a honky characteristic, it's normally very prominent in their vocals, and normally around about 1.5 kHz. And when I was filming this video and preparing for this video, I was really interested in this sound. And I started thinking to myself, well, how would I describe a honk? What is a honk really? And so I thought about the animals that make a honking sound, and immediately I thought of a goose. So I sampled the sound of a goose honking and analysed the frequency in those so that I could also compare them to my affected and normal vocal sounds. And the results were really interesting, so make sure that you stay tuned to have a look at those. To get this honky kind of vocal, I want it to sound very nasal and closed off. So I'm going to make sure that there's not really too much air going through my nose at all when I'm singing. I also personally find it easier to get a honky characteristic in my voice if I sing a bit higher. So this example is going to be higher than the previous ones, and for that I apologise. I also apologise because I know that I'm going to have to sing it in a very honky way. I know that this will be extremely exaggerated, however I want to make sure that we get the results showing up nice and clearly on the charts because this is quite a prominent and quite a common feature in a lot of vocalists. La, 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 la. Now, I reckon that was about as horrible for me to sing as it was for you to hear, so I'm very sorry that you had to go through that. However, let's hope that it got us some nice, clear results in the charts. Before I show you the two vocal charts, here's the analysis that I did of the goose honk as I mentioned. Now you can see that there was some background noise, especially in the low frequencies. But the two main frequencies that stick out to me in this sound is around 750 and 1.5 kHz. Now let's have a look at the two vocal takes. As I mentioned, there is an increase in 1.5 kHz, but interestingly enough, just like the goose sound, there's also an increase around 250 Hz, and I think that this is really actually quite cool. Now I'm not sure that I'll be able to get rid of the honk characteristic completely in this vocal, as it is so prominent and over-exaggerated. But I've taken out the frequencies in the 750 and 1.5 kHz range. I've also added a few high frequencies to lift the track a bit more as I felt that it needed it. Here's the before and after. La, 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 la. As I said, it's not completely fixed, but I think that it is a lot more bearable now. Harshness in a vocal can be a really problematic tone. It can make a vocal really stick out instead of sitting in the mix nicely. And we normally find this around 2.5 to 4 kHz. This was actually a problem that I encountered in one of my own songs that I produced recently. And by cutting this area, I cannot tell you how much it improved my vocals. So to get a harsh quality in my vocals, I'm going to keep the sound up high. To me, it feels a lot more like the sound is coming from up here, rather than from my diaphragm when I'm singing. I'm also going to make sure that there's very little space in my mouth to help reduce the resonance in the voice, and also keep my face muscles very tight. So I'm going to be almost singing with a big old smile on my face, which will also help get me the harsh quality. La 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 la. Now let's have a look at the results. Now it's only a little change this time, but you can see how there has been a slight increase in frequencies around 2 to 5 kHz, which is the area we suspected. To fix this, all I'm going to do is simply cut around the 2 to 5 kHz area, and that should dial down some of the brightness of the vocals. Let's have a listen. La 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 la. As you can hear, it certainly made the vocals less harsh and piercing. By open sounding vocals, I mean the kinds of vocals that you'd expect to hear in the verse of the song before the strong vocals in the chorus come in. They're the types of vocals that are airy and floaty, but still have a good amount of body to them. They're not just a whisper vocal. And the area that we're going to be having a look at for this tone is around 6 kHz. Like with a powerful and a smooth vocal, to get an open sounding vocal, I'm going to be using a lot of the same techniques as I did to get a harsh sounding vocal. The biggest difference, however, is that I'm not going to have tense facial muscles. I'm going to keep them nice and relaxed so that we still get some body and some resonance in the vocal tone. I'm also going to make sure that I let a lot of air through as I sing. I'm not going to be focusing on getting a crystal clear vocal tone, and that will help make my vocals sound quite airy and quite bright and light while still having some body to it. La 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 la. Let's have a look and see how that's affected the frequencies. Here are the two charts. Now we can't see the increase around the 6 kHz area as we thought, but it could be that there just wasn't enough of an increase for it to show up on the graph. We can, however, see a slight increase near 5 kHz that wasn't in the normal vocal. So even though it didn't show up in the charts, to make the vocal sound more open and airy, I'm going to try boosting the 6 kHz range anyway, and let's just see what happens. La 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 la. As you can hear, it definitely did make the vocal sound a lot more open and lighter than before. So even though the graphs didn't show it, if you want to make your vocals sound more open, then I definitely would recommend looking around the 6 kHz area. So there are some problematic and advantageous vocal tones and characteristics that we can find. Now, obviously no two singers are the same, and so these tones may not appear in the exact same places as they did in my vocals, but they should be in the approximate area, so just have a look around those certain areas. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it useful and interesting. Let me know what you thought in the comments below and if there are any other videos you'd like to see in the future. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and notification bell, and I will see you again soon.